Pickup tongs, as the name implies, are really just used for picking things up. Welcome back to Black Bear Forge and the tool of the day. Really, as the name implies, it is just that simple. Pickup tongs are for picking things up. Generally, they are not for forging. They don't have enough strength to be good forging tongs, but like most things in blacksmithing, there is an exception. The number one use for pickup tongs is just picking up oddball things of different shapes. Because of this odd shape, they're kind of springy and you can get different things in at different places in the tongs. And you can pick stuff up and you can move them around in the fire and get them off the floor if you don't feel like bending down to pick stuff up off the floor. That one's kind of slippery. Chase that around till I get it. And that's why they're not good for forging tongs, because they don't hold anything very securely. They're just used for picking things up. And this is the classic shape for pickup tongs, although some of them only have a single bow and then the short flat section, and they're often just referred to as single pickup tongs. Pickup tongs often have a nice long handle, which is very helpful depending on what you're trying to reach into or around or behind to pick things up. This is the lifesaver when you drop something down in the slack tub and don't feel like sticking your arm all the way down there because it's midwinter and the water is just barely above freezing. You can fish around with a pair of pickup tongs if the handles are long enough to get stuff back out of the tub. If you drop something behind a power hammer or under a workbench, these are a pretty handy solution for grabbing that back out. If you work in a gas forge and you've managed to bobble trying to get the piece out, you're working at trying to get this thing out of the gas forge and all you're really doing is chasing it further back in there until your hands are roasting because of the heat coming off the gas forge. A really nice long pair of lightweight tongs just to drag that back closer comes in real handy. And that's what I like these for. I don't know what they were made for originally. I don't know if they were really pickup tongs or something else. And that's all I use these for, really, is just either fishing stuff out of the slack tub or getting stuff that's been chased to the back of the gas forge. This other pair is a bit more useful. And you don't need a lot of pickup tongs. They're fairly universal. And while these lighter weight versions of pickup tongs are just about useless as forging tongs, although you might find some use for them, there's another style that are referred to as pickup tongs, if I remember correctly, but are much heavier, much stouter. They don't have that springiness. They just have this nice round bow on the end, and it's pretty good for picking things up. But because they're fairly stout, they can be quite useful for some power hammer work, but also they hold these axe heads and adze heads that I do very solidly, and I really like working with them for that. They're good for manipulating things under the hammer and turning them if you need to flip back and forth. They're really a pretty solid pair of tongs for certain things. Certainly not a universal style, but for under the power hammer, they do work quite well for a lot of things because the piece tends to just sit on the dies and it'll keep them from sliding off. But when I can put them in the axe eye like this, they are very useful. So if you're just learning to make tongs and your tongs are a little bit weird and kind of flimsy, maybe drawing out those flat jaw tongs that don't quite fit right, make them a little longer, a little springier, a little lighter, give them a shape like this, make pickup tongs out of them. You'll find lots of uses for them. They will definitely come in handy and you'll be glad you have them. These are available for sale at most of the blacksmith suppliers, but they're not too hard to make if you're making your own tongs. They're really a very basic pair of tongs and a good thing to explore if you're learning to make tongs. But if you find them for sale, these are old ones, these are old ones. These either came from Pay Tool or Centaur Forge, I think, and I think they're the Tom Tongs or the Billy Tongs that those folks sell. Again, excellent product, wonderful stuff. I think one pair of pickup tongs in your shop is a must-have item after you've got a few pair of tongs to use for forging. But you'll be glad you've got them if you go ahead and take the time to make them, or if you can track down a pair to buy, even if they're old, rusty, kind of bent up tongs, because they don't need to have a strong grip. They just need to be able to pick some stuff up either out of the fire, off the floor, or from behind the power hammer. This pretty much covers most of the tong styles that you find in a blacksmith shop commonly. There are lots of other styles of tongs out there. There are hammer eye tongs, there's chainmaker's tongs, hoop tongs, knee tongs, and I'm sure if I look in my rack of tongs, I'm going to find some other styles that I can't even think of what the names are right now. And they all come in useful if you need them. But we'll save those for some future videos. We're going to wrap up discussing tongs with the pickup tongs for now, and we'll get back to that after the novelty has worn off a little bit, or when they are appropriate in the workflow of things that we're doing to talk about the more obscure shapes of tongs. We're definitely going to make some tongs. One other thing that I forgot to mention in all of our discussions on tongs, although I've talked about it in previous videos when we've made tongs, is handedness. Tongs are left-handed or right-handed, and it's which side the rein on top is that determines the handedness. So this pair, the top rein is on the left side. That's a left-handed pair of tongs, and that's what a right-handed blacksmith would use in their left hand. Right hand holds the hammer, left hand holds the tongs, so you want left-handed tongs. I talk about that more in our initial videos on tong making, and I'll try to link to one of those right up here in the left-hand corner so you can get the concept of left and right-handed. If you're making tongs, that's important. If you're buying tongs, they're probably all going to be left-handed anyways. I hope you found that video interesting and informative. I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up. Love it if you'd hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done that. Be sure to share the videos with your friends if you think it's appropriate. Share them on your social media sites if you'd like to. You've got my permission to do that. If you would like to support the channel financially, there are links for Patreon and PayPal down in the description. There's no obligation. The content is free and will remain free. That is simply a donation to help fund the cost of producing the videos. In the meantime, I do hope you can get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.